Shum Jr. You might know him from Glee or Shadowhunters, also from Crazy Rich Asians. But at the end of December, I'm sorry, beginning of December, he'll be seen in All My Life from Universal Pictures. So thank you so much for joining us today, Harry. We're really excited to talk a little bit more about men's health. Excited to have you. I know we've all been kind of staying at home for 8 and 9 months now, which is tough on a lot of us. It's a lot of things that can be caused from that, a lot of mental health issues. So Movember is a mental health charity. It's a prostate cancer charity, a testicular cancer charity. We're all about men's health and those 3 causes. So excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to having a conversation with you guys. I just love the work that you guys do and have been doing, and even furthering the cause in different ways, because I think just in general, whether it be testicular cancer or anything, prostate cancer, I think the whole mental health, the whole body of is something that we all have to be mindful of constantly.
Yeah, I think it's super important, especially for men who are honestly the ones that don't often take care of themselves and don't think about their health. We often grow up to not talk about that kind of stuff. So it's really important to kind of be open and honest. So tell me a little bit about your upcoming film. I know you've got a character that you play that suffers from cancer. So love to hear a little bit more about that. It's awesome that you're leading that film alongside Jessica Roth. So can you tell us a little bit more about the role and how it kind of helped you understand men's health and your own health as well?
Yeah, so the film is called All My Life. It's inspired by a true story of Jen and Saul. They are a newly engaged couple. Shortly after they find out that Saul is diagnosed with liver cancer and only has all of his groups of friends, they band together and try and give him the wedding, most memorable wedding they could have imagined. And what's beautiful is that it's the way that this couple and their friends kind of charged forward on this tragedy that could have halted so many things, and you could have let that define you. Instead, they let their each other and the people that surround them.
All right, your connection's a little rough. We heard some of that. Maybe we can get you back here in a second, but we'll get you back with that Wi-Fi. All right, 1 second. Yeah, it's a little choppy. I heard about half of that story, and I know it's an important one, so I want to make sure everyone can see it.
Yeah, let me see what I can do. Hold on. Is that better?
It's always the fun of working with tech. A little bit better, yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that film again?
Yeah. So All My Life is a story about this couple who is newly engaged, and shortly after they find out that Saul is diagnosed with liver cancer, and their plans for their wedding just kind of goes haywire. And it's their group of friends, the things that the generosity of strangers and their friends, what they're able to do is give them a wedding a memorable wedding for the short period of time that they have together. So it's just such a beautiful story about hope and what you choose to do in the face of tragedy is also says a lot about who you are and who the people that you are surrounded by are. So it's a sad story, but it's also, there's so much hope in it, and I think that's what makes the story so special.
Oh, that's great. It is important to keep that hope alive and to really spread that message of hope too, I think, especially with all we've experienced in 2020. I think hope is a great message to continue to spread. Especially we've talked a lot about mental health over the last few months. How have you been holding up, and what's helped you kind of get through this pandemic?
Well, a lot of hope, but also a lot of um, a lot of also just finding yourself. I think that's been the biggest part that I've heard from a lot of people, and myself included, is that you're just finding things about yourself, about your relationship, about your friendships, about your relationship with your family, and also figuring out what's really important. I'm a new dad, so getting that time with my daughter that I don't know how it would have been if this pandemic didn't happen. So it's always trying to find the silver lining. There's so much hardship and there's so many things that people are going through. I think everyone's going through different things, specifically mentally, because a lot of times our way of expelling negativity is to being around people, to doing things, and in that sense you might be covering it up. But I think what is important is to take these times, when you are sheltered place or whatever you're doing, is to try and just think about the little things and what things that you can take when we do hopefully get out of this pandemic, and that you can carry over, that brings positivity to your life, and to also just a mindset that doesn't allow you to go down this path that could be very damaging to you.
Yeah, well, I think all of us have struggled a little bit, but you got a little light there with your daughter being born, and that's really awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, I know like we've noticed a lot of times with men when they have these really big important milestones in their lives or big things that happen, it can affect mental health in a good way or a bad way. How has becoming a father changed your life, and how is that like kind of given you the kind of impetus to check on your own health and make sure you're staying mentally healthy?
Yeah, I think the important thing that you always think about work, or before you're thinking about, or even just issues and problems that you have to solve in your daily life. But when you have a human being in front of you, you also think about what you can provide for her. But I think just like that whole analogy of, when you're on a plane, you put your mask on first in order to put it on the little ones, because, you have to take care of yourself as well. And it's just as important, because if you're only worried about just taking care of another human being, and whether it be a significant other, you're not really in the state of mind to at least be in tune with the things that you do need to fix. It's just like you're driving that car and it always has that check, the check engine light, and you're like, I think it's fine. I know all of us have been at that one point where we're driving like, I think it's fine until I see smoke, and
I
that
can drive a
becomes a
few
little
more
too.
miles.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that we have to make sure to be in tune with our body and mind to know how to even just fix those things right away before it even goes down a path where we might not be able to, or it might be a lot harder to find a remedy for that. So that's definitely gained some importance on making sure that your health is just as important as the people that you're taking care of.
Yeah, and I think, you've got now a little one that wants to see you live long and happy life, to be there for her when she grows up and becomes an adult and gets married on her own and all that kind of stuff, all those milestones that we really want you to be around for. And I think that's super important as well. Um, some of the things we talk about in November, a lot of that too, with mental health, is social connectedness and staying like socially connected, checking in with each other. That's something men have a hard time with, honestly, especially as they grow older. They definitely lose touch with some of their friends, and it can lead to some negative mental health stuff. In different cultures as well, that can really be different, because there's things taught that, oh, we don't do this or we do it like this. As an Asian American, can you talk about some of the stigmas attached to males that struggle to open up, or what it's like when you try to open up?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, and you think about why is it this stigma in this community, and why is it so kind of widely, I guess, looked at and sometimes accepted. Say like, this is how it is, right? And I think so. I start to look back on it and realize, like, even like my dad or my mom's father or my grandpa, why they did not talk about certain things, whether it be like, past traumas, which is really difficult to actually even communicate the pain that someone is feeling, right? Not having the right words to connect that feeling. And I think that is a bigger problem. And also not wanting to be a burden to someone, to unload that pain, or just even an emotion that needs to be talked through and talked about. And I think that is the big part of it, because culturally it's just like, I don't want to be a burden to you. I don't want to bother you with my problems. And also, I don't know how to be vulnerable is a lot of things that has to be learned, right? The communication of just sitting there and just being vulnerable, or having someone in front of you that just will listen and not say anything. A lot of times there's nothing that could be said to fix anything. And I think that alone is so powerful. And we sometimes don't talk a lot about silence, not saying silence that you don't talk about your problems, but having someone there that will just be silent and be present and be there for you, I think is just as important for men. And I think it always comes to a place where like, oh, if this dude cries in front of me, I don't know how to deal with it. And sometimes like, you don't have to do anything. You just have to let them get it out of their system. Half the time that'll go so much further than you trying to comfort someone with words, because most of the time we don't know what someone's really going through, and we don't know how to even help them do that. So when we're talking about Asian American community, I think it even spans to just men in general, that we have a hard time doing that because we weren't taught that, and we don't have the proper language because I think it's a completely different language. What language that we know, you speak English or Chinese or Spanish. It's this other vocabulary that it takes to communicate emotions, and in school you're never taught that.
Yeah, I think you made some really important points there. I very much felt that kind of feeling of like, oh, I don't want to be a burden. I grew up with that kind of similar feeling, and it is tough because you do want to talk about your stuff, but at the same time you don't want to be that burden. But that really good point you made about just having someone there to listen and not
Yeah.
judge you, and just hear you. They don't need to fix your problems. They don't need to be an expert in the space of mental health to understand what you're going through. They just need to be an ear and an active listener too. You don't want someone who's just like, yeah.
That's the worst. That's when you lost someone. Yeah, that's when you
Exactly.
didn't have someone that's even more closed off. When you're like doing this, like, what did you say?
Oh yeah, no, that sounds awesome. You're like, I just told you something terrible, so please.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is important. We've talked about a lot of Movember. It's a model called ALEC, which stands for ask, listen, encourage action, and checking in. So it's asking people around you. It's asking them how they're doing, and really like genuinely asking. And a lot of men won't necessarily open up right away, but when they know that you're there for them, and that you're an ear for them, like that's going to be a huge step in the right direction. So I think that's super important. For you, being in the entertainment industry, that is it's a beast into itself on what that's all about. And especially, what kind of stuff have you found in your time in the industry that's kind of affected mental health, or do you think that kind of affects mental health as well?
I mean, the constant rejection is something that you have to make peace with, right? It's just part of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of there's a positive side to being rejected, because you are almost realizing certain things either you need to work on, and sometimes you can't work on something because it's just the world didn't align. Things weren't aligned for you to get that thing. But if you can take every single experience away and try and figure out what can I take away from this maybe negative experience, or this just experience in general that might not feel like you're making any progress in life or in your career, I think that's when you start to really find some joy in always knowing that what's the purpose of me doing this thing that constantly why would you throw yourself into constant rejection all the time? But it's just the way that things work. It's just you get opportunities in front of you, and hopefully if you're right, then I guess that is a different mentality, right? For me, it's almost like if things are right, then the world will work itself out. you know, but also in the industry wise, there's just constantly like there's always like heavy competition in a lot of ways because you're always trying to get a role. But I've learned that there's enough to eat for everyone. If you have that mentality for anything that you do, then you're gonna have more appreciation for just the simple things that your industry has to offer. And for me, it's I look at acting as a form of therapy. I get to play these characters and really learn from, be really intimate with someone, just be that person and take away hopefully something that I can use in my personal life. And that's for me very very selfishly something that has actually really really helped me to be, I guess, striving to be a better person, and to also face certain demons that I do have. Because what's really difficult is when you in this particular industry is that you how much of yourself can you put into something. And
Hmm.
I took a different approach. It's like, how much can I learn from this person that's set in front of me that I get to know? And that is goes back to like listening. It's just like listening. Whether I think there's a lot of things that you can hear even if you're by yourself. You're listening to this person that's inside you that's sometimes screaming out loud. Just be that person that I am inside instead of putting up a whole bunch of walls and masks. So just listening to yourself, I think, is a huge part of having some sanity moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally an actor. Your job is to put on a mask and become a different person
Yeah.
every time. And yet, for you, it is helping you kind of take those masks off and actually confront that within yourself. Do you have any roles that you've played that you're like, wow, playing that role really helped me understand myself in X ways, whether that's, from Shadowhunters, from Glee, from this movie that's coming out? Did you notice anything like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. I think every single role, I mean, even like for instance, Shadowhunters, having played, this, there's so many layers. You always talk about there's this 400-year-old warlock who's is immortal, and then on top of it, he is proud bisexual character, and on top of that, he's also can can drop can of whoop ass, if he needed to, but also there's so much vulnerability within him, so it's just a range of things. And you would think someone who's played a character, who's immortal, he would be able to get in tune with different parts of of human slash demon. But like I think when we talk about just humans in general, we are capable of anything, and it's just to draw it out of us. Some things really bad if you go
Yeah.
down a road, and some things hopefully really good. You are capable of doing that. I think with when I look at these roles, and specifically with this movie, All My Life, is that someone like Saul having that outlook, even though you're on the knowing that you have such a limited time with the people you love, and of course no one wants to leave. He didn't want to leave this, this this wife that he has, and
Hmm.
his friends, but he knew that, what can he leave behind if I do need to go? I we're we're good.
Gotcha. You're cracking up a little bit at the end there. The connection a little wacky. Um, see, we hold on here to get him back. We hate to lose our guest. He was speaking so much good stuff here. Always tough with the internet connection. Oh, Harry. Oh, hopefully we can get you back here in a second. Let's see. Well, while we wait for Harry to come back, hopefully we can get him back here. I know it's always tough with the. All right, He'll come back in a second. But I hope you guys are hearing some great stuff here. Some of that really important stuff really is to listen, be there for people, and really, take a look at yourself. We've had all this time in a pandemic to really to learn a bit more about ourselves, and I think it's a gift. And I think what Harry said about just kind of being there, we'll get him back here, is an important takeaway. So we're going to get him back here in just a second. All right, he's almost back. But for those of you who might not be familiar with Movember, you might be fans of Harry's, please visit Movember.com. You can learn a little bit more about our cause, a little bit more about men's mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer and testicular cancer as well. These are really important causes. That's what we're here for. That's why I'm growing this mustache. So please check us out. Harry's coming back here. We're just waiting on him to accept. But excited to, have these conversations. I think that's also something that's super important. Having these conversations, letting people hear that it's okay to, have these more intimate discussions and discussions about things that you might not want to have. They're tough conversations, but they are super important. So I think they're great. We'll try to get it back here again. Harry, if you're still there, I have accepted. Hopefully, I see your request coming through. I'm going to get you back. But yeah, these tough. There he is.
Ah, there you go. I moved to a different area. Hold on, let me turn on some lights real quick. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. This is the magic of technology.
Oh man, where were we?
Oh, we're at so much. I think as we were talking, that kind of just learning so much about your roles and what you learned when you were playing this latest role. Did you feel any kind of I don't want to say a burden, but this kind of weight on your shoulders to really represent this is a real human being that you're representing versus, a fictional character from a book or a brand new character created for a TV show? What was that like for you?
Yeah, always. When you have someone that you want to just get right. I think a lot of times other characters, whether it be fictional and adapted, you still have that burden because there's so many people who have seen this character a certain way, right? But this one, you're dealing with someone who's gone through something that a lot of people have seen before, as far as because the story was shared, and it was a heartfelt, beautiful story that they didn't go as in depth as we I guess did in this movies, but having that and approaching it very differently was I just made sure to do my research, get as much information as I could, and then to just carry over what was Jen, I think the real Jen Carter. What she really wanted is to make sure that we were able to spread Saul's message, of positivity and in the face of this tragedy, like what he decided to do, and how he decided to forge and move forward with the person that was the love of his life. And a lot of times it wasn't about getting the mannerisms, wasn't about what you would do if you were studying a character for a biopic, but it was more the inspiration that I was more inspired by the things that he did and the way he was with Jen and the way he was with his friends. So it was definitely a different approach, and it was an out of body of experience. Absolutely out of body of experience, because looking back now, some things I don't even remember doing, watching the movie, and things just happen that way. So yeah, it is a lot to carry over. But I think with the help of everyone who contributed in the movie, from our DP to Mark Myers, just creating such a safe space. And I think that's important when we're talking about mental health, just in general. It's just like the safe space that is allowed when you are vulnerable, when you are having to deal with these emotions that you don't quite know how to control. So you do need people outside of you to help you to kind of move forward in the safest way.
Yeah, and if you think about it, what he did was super brave. It took a lot of balls to actually, tell people like, hey, this is what I'm going through and I need your help, and asking for that help, and like having his family come together to, give him that wedding and that very exciting, like, I don't want to say send off, but I guess it's kind of a send off, but a really exciting way to do that. And there's so many people who, might not want to share that. Again, going back to what you talked about, being a burden. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to affect other people. But it really is all about a community and, having your friends and family there for you. We've used the phrase before, no man is an island, no mo is an island. And that it really is a group effort, and your mental health isn't a burden on other people when you are sharing that information out there, and you're just looking for support. And that's what that's what friendships are all about. That's what family is all about. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think you said it right with just the support system, that we all need to also work hard on making sure that we nurture that as well. Because it does take work, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. So it works both ways, and that is the hard part about it all, because there's just so much thought has to go into it. But at the same time, once you get it going, it just goes, and that's the beauty of it.
No, absolutely. While we're waiting for you to come back, I was kind of mentioning how important it is to even just having this conversation, like letting people know it's okay to have these conversations. So to physically see two men chatting and having a talk about being open and honest about mental health, about their health in general, I think is super important. So, the more people see this, and the more people see, people talking and being open, I think it's super important.
And I don't see a downside to it. I just don't see it. I like that. I just don't see why, unless I think the biggest thing is fear and how you're looked at, right? But there's just no downside. Once you can get over that hump, it is just, it feels really good. I'm sure, you growing up, I don't know what your background is, but when you're younger, you've had those moments where you're like, you just don't say anything, and you just keep it inside, and it manifests into something else, which is usually not good. But but knowing that there's nothing wrong, and it just really no downside into having a conversation with other men about things that you're going through.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It is fear that prevents people from actually wanting to have those conversations. So you can get past that. There's probably all of your male friends in your life that you're saying like, man, if I opened up to him, maybe he would open up back, and you can see that you're not that different, and you guys are struggling through probably some of the same things, even if they don't look it. We have a social media life, and everyone looks perfect on the gram, but when it comes back to it, everyone has their struggles. Everyone's going through something, and honestly, it's okay not to be okay. And the more you open up, I think the better it will be for everybody.
Preach.
There it is. Well, Harry, as 2020 is coming to a close, we're going to start wrapping up another Movember here in just a few weeks. I see the starting of a mustache there.
I wanted to mention that I apologize for not having one. I had one in the beginning of actually the middle of last month, that I was like ready to just grow in time. And a character I'm playing, I'm out here in Vancouver for work, so he has to be pretty fresh faced. So, I'm growing it in the inside, if you can't see, but I'm in between days. So, I'll have little by little increments, and hopefully by the end of the month, it'll be full grown, so I can at least represent for you guys and for all the men.
Well, that's awesome. I know, as an actor, it's super tough because you have to play a character, and part of that mask you're wearing might not be a mustache, which is unfortunate. If we get more men wearing mustaches, more characters can have mustaches. That'll be good. But you know, it has been a tough year. You kind of mentioned a little bit about it, but what do you think is a takeaway we can all take away from 2020 as we go on into 2021?
Um, you know, I mean, how we have been given this opportunity for a reset. So it's like, what are you going to do with this reset, and how are you going to carry forward? You're going to go back to your ways that you might not have been happy with, certain things, aspects of your life that you want to change. This is, I think, the time to at least learn about it and get to know it, so you can change it. And I think that for me, what was really always difficult when you find something out that you might you want to change it immediately without getting to know that one thing, that why it causes you to do this, and whether it be anger towards something. You're like, why is this manifesting the way it is? Like, can I get to the heart of it, and what made me feel this way? And you go back and back and far back. And I think with that, you start to really shed those things that don't really matter to you. And especially in life, when you go back and think like, why should I have to feel that way if I don't need to? You know, you are in more control than you think you are. And that is, I think, my biggest takeaway is just, you don't have to control things, but you have control of a lot of things. You know, I think it's playing the balance of the two.
And
And
it's focusing on
that's my
what you
biggest
can
takeaway.
control. You know, focus on what you
Absolutely.
can.
Yeah, focus on
Yeah.
what you can, and there is a lot that you can in a really beautiful way that works in harmony with the people that you're surrounded by.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Harry, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It was great getting to talk with you. I think, like I said, this is an important conversation to have, an important conversation for people to see. For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us on this Movember Sessions with Harry Shum Jr. Please, if you don't know about Movember, or even if you do, go to Movember.com, learn a little bit more about us. Feel free to make a donation. And do not forget to check out Harry's new movie coming out December 4th, All My Life, starring Harry himself. And Jessica Roth, who actually, we had a trivia night event last night.
Yeah.
She filmed in a little question for us, so she got featured as well. So I'm
Nice.
glad we got both of you 2 days in a row. So it's really awesome.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was an honor, and thank you for talking to me. This is wonderful. And one more thing is another one of the great things that you guys do.
All those kind of things, you know, we're making really great positive incremental steps towards improving the mental health of everyone and men everywhere. So again, Harry, we're so grateful to have you and just have your time today and just have this conversation. So we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thanks for everyone who tuned in. Appreciate you.
Awesome.
All right,
All
bye.
right. Thanks, everybody.
See you.